Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 4 of What If Naruto was the reincarnation of Barrigan. If you guys enjoy this what if, and want to see part 5 of it, comment down below and let me know. The like goal for this video is 200 likes. So like this video, to let me know that you're interested in this series, and you want the next part. Check out my new videos of My Hero Academia what ifs in my second channel, and give it some love as well. Link is in the description. I have created a playlist for this what if, where you can find all the previous parts. Link is in the description. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. Konoha. Present day. Barrigan awoke from his slumber. Or rather, Naruto's body did, since it needed rest just like any other 12-year-old, and the former Espada had made sure to exercise it properly. The boy was still growing, so even with the body being physically enhanced beyond all normal means, it would be foolish of him to not give it the proper exercise required to keep everything in tip-top shape and show any form of weakness. Barrigan wouldn't tolerate it, and neither would his heir. After going through his now becoming usual morning physical routine to keep it in top shape, the former Espada in a child's body headed out for the day to inspect Konoha and see what else was going on in this cesspool of sorts that needed to be addressed. Tsunade was back, which was a plus for Naruto since the woman had no idea of the boy being alive until 2 days ago, and even now the newly minted 5th Hokage was cleaning house. The academy had lost several of their instructors responsible for the sabotaging of Naruto and the other students in his class. They were taken to Ibiki, who had no problem unleashing his skills on all of the morons that would cripple the next generation in their own way and risk the leaf becoming too weak to fight back possibly stronger enemies. Each academy instructor had eventually confessed not only the sabotaging, but that they did it for money being paid by the councils to further Uchiha Sasuke's belief of him being a true prodigy, and keep the boy loyal to Konoha and the belief he could be a great shinobi, thanks to their tutelage. The Shodaime also knew of this and approved of the sabotage, provided that it didn't go too far, and that each of the students had a fair chance of graduating the exam before being judged by their Jonin sensei during the real test. Insulting and stupid to say the least. The academy itself was a joke to Tsunade, as she saw the curriculum being used by them overall, and nearly threw her desk out the window in frustration at what was taken out of the programs. All that was left to teach these kids was history of Konoha, the basic jutsus used by any novice, and the academy's standard taijutsu. What about elemental affinities? How about the study kenjutsu? Different weapons for different shinobi. There wasn't even a mention of medical ninjutsu, being capable of saving lives of injured comrades. If this is how things were going since I've been gone, then the leaf is in bigger trouble than I thought, and the fact sensei let him happen concerns me. What was he thinking? Thought Tsunade, as she sighed while looking over more of the damage the Shodaime Hokage caused, and wanted to smash his face in. If it wasn't already, and he was at the hospital with Jiraiya with the 2 healing in full body casts. How are things? Asked Barrigan after using Sunito to enter her office thanks to the open window. Bad. Everything sensei did since taking office again after the Yondaime died was just one bad decision after another. It's like he purposely weakened Konoha, but for what I don't know, answered Tsunade with Barrigan nodding. Did Jiraiya tell you anything about the account he and Hiruzen made to pilfer money from the Uzumaki and Namikaze accounts? Asked Barrigan with Tsunade shaking her head no. He wouldn't answer me. The man just looked away with a scowl on his face like I did something horrible and revealing that to the world. Like some big secret that shouldn't be made public was brought to light. Of course, by that point I was upset with him to no end, that I broke his jaw, which I just finished healing with a solid punch, and told him that I would get answers no matter what, replied Tsunade with Barrigan nodding. The account in question had quite the sum of money deposited in it from the pilfering, plus the interest it was given to grow made it even larger, and could nearly buy a whole village with it, remarked Barrigan with the woman nodding before frowning. Wait a minute. The total number in the account was, according to the bank manager, had grown to the sum of 3,050,000,000 ryo, stated Tsunade with Barrigan nodding. That was with the interest from the years it sat growing in secret under everyone's noses like it was some kind of nest egg of theirs, remarked Barrigan with Tsunade nodding, but the frown didn't leave, and pulled up some information she found that was in regards to land rights possibly being purchased. There's only one place where a sum of money that large could and would be used when it comes to purchasing something on a massive scale. My former sensei was going to buy land that once belonged to Whirlpool Country, answered Tsunade with Barrigan now frowning, before she handed him the information. His mother's homeland and your grandmother's too. But why buy it? Said Barrigan with Tsunade sighing. After Whirlpool fell during the Second Shinobi War, it was believed with proof that there were other Uzumaki clan members who had survived the fall and would one day come back to reclaim the land when the time came. The Fire Daimyo was able to politically use the alliance Fire Country had with Whirlpool to gain some form of right to the land, but not entirely, since an Uzumaki could reclaim it for free regardless if the land was bought by another country. and it was forbidden for anyone to remove anything there, unless with permission from an Uzumaki without coercion from someone else, answered Tsunade with the former Espada in front of her narrowing his eyes. Unless someone like the Hokage bought the land using money in an account made using money from the Uzumaki account, and an overeager naive teenager for an Uzumaki that was currently living in Kano had changed things. One who was curious about his family history on his mother's side, and wanted to know more about it. All he had to do was give permission, and the payment would just further enforce the claim over anyone else before the rights to such land was given to Fire Country, stated Barrigan with Tsunade looking a bit confused. Why not ask me? I'm an Uzumaki on my mother's side, questioned Tsunade with the former Hollow King looking her right in the eye. Could you surrender your home to Fire Country? Willingly. Let shinobi from the leaf rape and pillage the treasures that lay buried there. The knowledge of Uzumaki seals, the jutsus, and the natural resources that surrounded the island. Asked Barrigan with the female Hokage shaking her head. No? Not when you mention it like that. I would have probably thought about the offer fast, but in the end, I would have said no, and let the past stay respectfully buried, said Tsunade with Barrigan nodding. Hence why you weren't asked. But if Naruto had been molded in the way Jiraiya and Hiruzen wanted, remarked Barrigan, so the unfinished sentence could in fact finish itself in Tsunade's mind. He would have unknowingly given Konoha and Fire Country just about everything that belonged to him, before they made sure it was never seen by him, finished Tsunade with the former Hollow King nodding while the woman seethed in anger. Exactly. They were intending to take what did not belong to them, while using someone who could take it, because it did belong to him. Only when he moved to take it, those that were with him would ensure the boy never had it, and lie to make Naruto believe there was nothing there to take, added Barrigan with Tsunade's anger rising, while trying to keep it in check, due to her guest helping in learning the truth. Thank you for helping fill in the blanks on this matter, Barrigan-sama. I will take the proper steps to ensure no one tries this again, replied Tsunade with Barrigan nodding and taking his leave again, before stopping at the window. Also, in addition to this conspiracy against Naruto, I suspect the Fire Daimyo is also involved in it too, since he would gain the most from such a deal, and no one could prove he had a hand in the machinations required to make it happen. By the time many questions or inquiries were to come up, Hiruzen would have been dead, and Jiraiya getting there within a few years, added Barrigan with Tsunade's eyes widening in surprise, and knew that was true. The natural resources within Whirlpool would make Fire Country financially richer than it had been in years, and the Fire Daimyo would be able to take credit for his country's newly found prosperity. The Fire Daimyo would have the most to gain from such a thing with such financial stake in the matter. Not to mention that her former sensei and Jiraiya could only set their plan in motion with the Fire Daimyo's approval. And the Fire Daimyo would consider what happened to be completely legal on his end, while denying anything illegal happened under his watch, said Tsunade with Barrigan nodding. He will eventually be dealt with in time, remarked Barrigan before he walked out of the room. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto smiled while looking around within his mind, as it was no longer a sewer like when he first entered it, and walked on white sand instead of water. There were no longer pipes of all different shapes, sizes, and colors in tight constricting places like last time. Now there was only wide open space, with a wide open night sky, stars high in the air, and a shining moon above that was the only source of light in this dark place. An exact replica of Hueco Mundo. The smile left him quickly though, as a look of concentration replaced it, and like Barrigan he too had a shadowy black cane with a fox's head in his left hand. Appearing behind him was his mother, a sword in hand, meant to slash him diagonally down the back, and tear through his flesh. Dodging the attack, Naruto moved left, right, down, up, shift more to the right, leap back using a handstand before spinning to face her, and then blocked the last attempt with his cane. Holding his cane steady, Naruto felt his father's presence behind him, the kunai in hand currently at the ready to stab him in the back of the head, and moved his head away, to prevent the weapon from killing him. Grabbing the arm with his free one, Naruto gave a squeeze until Minato had no choice but to let the weapon fall with his limb at risk of being broken, and kick the fallen kunai at his mother. Kushina quickly jumped away to prevent the weapon from striking her in the chest, and pierce her heart before charging again, with Naruto using Sunido to vanish from sight. Damn it, Naruto. Stop using that move, exclaimed Minato since his son used it easily, to dodge his parents' attacks with Kushina colliding into him in the process. But it's so fun to use it. Besides, you use your own technique that made you famous in the last Shinobi War. It's only fair, countered Naruto with a smile on his face. He's got you there, Minato-kun, added Kushina while Minato grumbled. You're only saying that because he has red hair like you, countered Minato, who got punched in the jaw for that, and earned Kushina's wrath. Don't denounce people with red hair. Red hair is the best hair color ever. Databane, exclaimed Kushina while Naruto smirked at seeing his father whimper in pain from the punch to the face. Enjoying things, I take it? Asked Barrigan, as he appeared before them, and saw the boy nod his head. I sure am, Grandpa Barrigan, answered Naruto with Barrigan smirking at him. Smart ass Gaki. Still, in a way it does make sense you would call me that. How goes your training, in understanding my techniques and those of your parents? Questioned Barrigan with Naruto shooting a ball through the sandy dunes of this fake version of Wako Mundo. Everything is going well. I still have a ways to go though. So much to learn here, and then practice in the real world when I take control. How's life outside? Replied Naruto with Barrigan informing him and his parents of what has happened so far. I knew Tsunade didn't willingly abandon my son. Take that, Minato-kun. Databane. Exclaimed Kushina happily while Minato groaned at his wife being right. Regardless, I'm disturbed by this news of the Hiruzen and Jiraiya conspiring with the Fire Daimyo to acquire Whirlpool for the treasures there, remarked Minato with his wife's happy mood shifting from happy to angry with her hair moving around wildly. I'll kill them. Let me at them. Let me at them. Exclaimed Kushina with Minato having to restrain his wife before she got too out of control. As for the arranged marriages, you have Inizuka Hana, Hyuga Hinata, and Yamanaka Ino to be your future wives. If any other potential women catch your interest will be up to you to court after we've merged into one entity, remarked Barrigan with Naruto looking surprised, while Kushina squealed with joy. Yes. I'm one step closer to having lots and lots of grandchildren. Databane. Exclaimed Kushina while Minato just looked at her with a sweat drop running down his head while laughing nervously. Sorry about this. Even when she was pregnant with Naruto, Kushina-chan was thinking he was a boy and wondering how many girls would chase after him. She kept saying he would grow up to be a handsome boy, or overall a heartthrob with every girl wanting to marry him, replied Minato with Naruto shaking his head, while Barrigan snorted in amusement. Women would always be strange to them no matter what. Real world, with the rookies. Come on you maggots. Move it. Move it. Move it. Exclaimed Anko, as she watched the group running around her obstacle course she created with the Hokage's approval. And saw how each of the rookie 9 that would have qualified to take the official graduation test that their Jonin senseis would give them, were now struggling to get through it. Were the academy's standards this low that they couldn't go through her version of an obstacle course? It wasn't like she overdid things here and made it too challenging, right? Okay, so maybe the multiple rings of fire they had to jump through, the buzz saws that came out of the floor if you stepped on one of the multiple hidden switches, and the large pit of spikes were a bit much. Maybe. Still, did they have to glare at her when she decided to unleash one of her larger horse-sized snakes on them before they started running, and trying to get away from being devoured by it? Was she that cruel and sadistic? In one word to sum up the answer to her own question, absolutely. She's a sadistic bitch. I think I'm going to puke, remarked Kiba, as he was panting, and taking this brief moment, to crouch slightly with his hands on his knees to catch his breath after finally completing the course with a few others. Why is she running us ragged like this? Asked Ino since she wasn't expecting this when they were being given the crash course in their shinobi training. I believe she wants our bodies to be a peak performance since the academy didn't do that much in regards to physical endurance training, answered Shino, but even his stoic form was covered in sweat, and it showed on his trench coat if only slightly. I can do all that at home when I train. Why do it here? Challenged Kiba now on his ass, and felt his breath get caught in his throat when he sensed a looming figure having moved to hover behind him. Because all of your parents want to make sure you get the maximum amount of physical training. Also, I had a talk with your mom last night about you slacking off at home, and she knows for a fact that a certain runt I'm talking to here hasn't been training that hard in his clan's style, replied Anko in a sweet yet evil voice, while Kiba laughed nervously at her cruel-looking eyes. I'm pacing myself, answered Kiba with Anko picking him up by his jacket. Wrong answer, Gaki. Do the course over again. If you die, remember it's not my fault you can't cut it, and considering your sister is going to eventually marry the family line isn't going to be lost. Exclaimed Anko, as she threw him to the start of the course, and heard him let out a dog-like whine, before growling at the mention of his sister's future marriage. When I see Naruto Baka, I'm going to kick his ass, and see to it that all his marriages are cancelled, thought Kiba angrily while using it to run through the obstacle course again. So Hana is going to marry Naruto? Asked Shikamaru after taking a bottle of water and drinking some of it before pouring it on his head. From what I've heard from my parents, Ino here and Hinata are in an arranged marriage with Naruto-san, answered Shino with Ino frowning and Hinata blushing at the mention of her future marriage to Naruto. Of course, it was hard to tell, since she was panting heavily too from running through the obstacle course. Well, I don't like it. If I'm going to be in arranged marriage with anyone, it should be Sasuke-kun, and not Naruto Baka, answered Ino finally, while Hinata frowned, while Sakura collapsed near them by this point. You tell them Ino pig, replied Sakura, though in truth she was glad Ino was out of the running and getting to be with Sasuke. As well as most of the other girls since they gave up earlier when Anko first introduced the obstacle course. Shut up, forehead. The point is, being married to Naruto Baka will be painful, and make me want to kill myself. Why anyone would want to be married to him, and live a pathetic life with him is beyond me, remarked Ino while Hinata scowled now, and felt her hands once to ball up into fists to slug the girl. Perhaps you should look in the mirror first before judging others, little girl, remarked Anko while walking up to the girl. What do you mean? Questioned Ino with Anko shaking her head at her. You want to talk about painful? About Naruto. That Gaki's life has been anything but pleasant, and I should know since I've seen it. Didn't your father tell you the boy's history and past in connection to how he suffered every day since he was born? Questioned Anko with Ino looking away. He did. I just blocked him out for the most part. It's kind of hard to listen to him when he mentions I'm going to marry to the baka, answered Ino before flinching under the glare from Anko, and probably Hinata's too, as she focused on the Hyuga girl next. So, you blocked out the part where your father explained how Naruto was beaten within an inch of his life. How he was stabbed with swords, kunai, shuriken, and used for jutsu testing against his will. How he had to eat out of garbage cans, eat rotten food, and in some cases no food at all. Questioned Anko with Ino looking away further in shame, while the other rookies heard this, and were listening intently. The baka recovered, did he? The Kyuubi just healed his injuries anyway, so what does it matter? Asked Sakura while getting involved in this conversation. Just because he healed physically doesn't mean there weren't mental scars, you dumb pink-haired bitch. Not only was Naruto hurt in all those ways growing up, he was also told his parents didn't want him, and that they abandoned him because he was a monster. How would you feel growing up, and hear that from just about everyone in the village? It's a miracle the Gaki lived this long without killing himself sooner. Kami knows he probably has considered several ways to kill himself, but he shot them down because he knew they would probably fail, and believed that the object sealed in the forbidden scroll of sealing, as his only way out in what he believed was a guarantee that he would die. Explained Anko with Sakura moving away from the angry woman while Ino was looking ashamed. Well, he is a monster. Sakura shot back before Anko moved over to the pink-haired girl now crawling backward away from her, and stomped on little girl's stomach. Listen here, brat. You think your world is so perfect? That your parents are perfect? Let me tell you something about your parents. They're the ones who went to the Shodaime Hokage, and bitched about the academy being too hard for little girls like you. They felt that the innocence of their little pink-haired princesses, and by extension every other child going to the academy. They asked that the standards at the academy get lowered to the point where even the fangirls like you and the other wretches that want to get into the Uchiha's pants have a very small remote slim chance of passing. Trust me, brat, if you were in my class at the academy, you wouldn't have made it halfway through the year, and quit being a shinobi altogether. You lack the needed stamina, the necessary training, and your only real strength is book smarts that don't really help you out in the field. They might in a library, but in being a shinobi, and don't tell me that Suzume's flower class, and how to act like proper woman counts since it doesn't, answered Anko while she glared at the pink-haired girl. And like Naruto Baka would have done any better. Challenged Sakura weakly with Anko barking out a laugh. Done better. The kid would have outshined everyone. But you'll see that soon enough when the kid awakens and is out in the field. Personally, I can't wait to see how badass he can be, and make his enemies run away after soiling themselves, remarked Anko while letting out a giggle of joy at the idea of seeing Naruto make his enemies do that. She's scary. Like my mom, whispered Shikamaru to Choji. I knew that before we ran the obstacle course, whispered Choji while wishing he could eat some chips right now. Keeping them on their toes, I see, remarked Barrigan, as he had used Sunito to arrive at this training area, where Anko was torturing the rookies to the point of puking the food they ate 3 days ago out. Yep. You must be Barrigan-sama given the mature way you are addressing me, said Anko with Barrigan smirking despite the smirk was made using Naruto's face. Thank you, my dear. It's always nice to meet a woman with perceptive eyes, ears, and the brains to know who they addressing, replied Barrigan with a slight bow of his head to show his respect to her. Flattery will get you and Naruto nowhere. At least not until Naruto is older and he talks the same way as you, countered Anko before giggling, and Barrigan let out a chuckle of his own. I'll be sure to tell him no, or at least mentally remember that so he can later when we merge into one being, replied Barrigan with a smirk on his face. He's still a loser, remarked Sasuke, which got everyone to look at him, and most of the faces from these people were looking at him with disgust. Care to repeat that, Uchiha? Questioned Barrigan while looking at the boy like he was a worm that deserved to be crushed beneath his boot. You heard me, freak. Without you, the loser you inhabit would stay a loser, and be a weak nobody like everyone in the village believes if true. The only reason they don't now is because you are threatening to kill them with your freakish powers, challenged Sasuke with Barrigan not looking pleased by the Uchiha's words. Tough talk coming from the boy who had everything handed to him early on in life. All the academy instructors basically handed you everything except your shinobi headband before you even took your first test. They bowed to your every whim simply because you are the last Uchiha, and your Sharingan is supposed to be this special bloodline that should be feared. I see it as a cheat. The crutch. The bloodline for those seeking the easy path in life without any desire to work hard for what they want, countered Barrigan with Sasuke seething at his words. I'm an Uchiha. The lead of this village. They should give me everything I desire simply because my eyes and bloodline are the future of this village. Not you and that no-class orphan fool, who deserves to die with his deadbeat father, and whore for a mother. I bet the dead last isn't even the Yondaime's son, and that bitch whored herself throughout Konoha, just to stay in this village. exclaimed Sasuke before Barrigan used Sunedo and appeared in front of the Uchiha, before striking the boy in the chest with an open palm strike that sent the victim of the simple strike bouncing violently multiple times into a tree. "You speak out of place, boy," replied Barrigan in a dangerous tone, and walked over to the downed Uchiha, before he was surrounded by blank masked Anbu. "Step away from the Uchiha," commanded the captain of the group. "And who are you to command me?" questioned Barrigan while ignoring the blade at the boy's throat he was currently possessing. "We protect the last Uchiha from any and all threats. You are a threat to him if you do one more act of violence toward him," answered the Anbu captain, while two in his unit helped the Uchiha to his feet. "What are you idiots waiting for? As the last Uchiha of Konoha, I order you to kill him. Kill him now," commanded Sasuke with blood running down the side of his mouth and glaring hatefully at the former Hall King. "They can try, boy, and they will fail," challenged Barrigan with a cruel smile on his face. "For the good of Konoha." "Die, monster," exclaimed the Anbu captain, while ignoring the shout of protest from the Hyuga girl, or the fact she had moved to stop them. Only to be shocked when the blade at the boy's throat broke into pieces from the attempt to slice him open at the neck from ear to ear. "Foolish prideful humans," said Barrigan furiously at their continued arrogance, and let his spiritual pressure cover the entire area to make everyone fall to their knees with their lives flashing before their eyes. "What is this?" thought Sasuke, as he looked up at Naruto's form, and the eyes of the boy he hated for having all this power from this entity, that favored the now red-haired Uzumaki. Only to see the face shift rapidly before him into looking like a skull with a crown, and back with the angry eyes clearly showing the former Hollow King's displeasure. "You are an arrogant child. You believe yourself invincible with your so-called power that is your bloodline. These foolish shinobi that defend you are worms just like those on the councils that believe your Sharingan is a gift from some great deity. They sit in their little cradle of power, stomping their fists, beating their chests, all the while trying to use some invisible authority they all believe is there in order to get command over someone like me. In truth, they would have better luck making a rat dance for cheese, or make a cat move with a cheap toy. I've seen the boy's memories of you, walking around like you own this village because of the loss of your pathetic family, and acting like the entire world itself owes you everything. You are owed nothing, Uchiha Sasuke. Some may tell you otherwise, but they only say it to inflate your ego to work for them, and expect favors be returned on your end once you've been placed in a position of power. You need to be reminded of the order of things, and that you are not the elite shinobi everyone in this village has practically proclaimed you to be despite no outside experience whatsoever on your part," stated Barrigan before he smacked Sasuke in the face multiple times in the face with the end of his cane 6 times. 3 sides per cheek with what seemed like crude whisker marks in the form of cuts and bruises. It was after the 6th strike to the Uchiha's face that the spiritual pressure died away, and Barrigan turned to walk over to Hyuga Hinata, before he gently helping the girl up to her now shaky legs. She held onto him for a long moment, her breath catching up with her during that time, and slightly blushing at the physical contact, while Hinata knew that the being possessing Naruto was in control. Even if the feeling of shame of failing to stand at the time of his anger being released upon the Uchiha and his supporters. I'm sorry. I must seem so weak to you, Barrigan-sama. I don't think I'm truly strong enough to be worthy of being called Naruto's future wife, whispered Hinata while the former Espada let out a chuckle. My dear, you showed a great deal of loyalty to the boy when you called out like that to when the Anbu made his attempt at slicing Naruto's throat. Even moving toward the danger despite the risks involved. That takes courage. As for falling down to the ground with everyone else, it was to be expected considering my power, and eventually Naruto's power will be beyond anything you have ever felt before. Hopefully, as time passes, while you are in close contact with Naruto in the near future, you will develop some form of resistance to it, and be able to stand tall in the face of such power when it is unleashed, replied Barrigan gently with seeing Hinata nod while shying away at his words, since she still didn't feel worthy of being Naruto's future wife. As for the shinobi behind him, they had managed to stand with weapons drawn, and were about to attack, when Tsunade appeared with her own Anbu right behind her. What the hell is going on here? Demanded Tsunade since she had sensed the power that Barrigan had unleashed from the tower, and knew it spelled trouble. This creature in Uzumaki Naruto hurt the last Uchiha. We were protecting the boy from harm, answered the Anbu captain, with the blank Anbu mask on his face. Oh really? Who ordered you to be the Uchiha brat's bodyguards? I certainly didn't. None of my Anbu wear those masks, so take them off now, so I can identify you, commanded Tsunade with none of them obeying, and were instead moving slightly back to retreat. Voila, said Barrigan, as he blew the Anbu captain's leg out before he used Sunedo to stand on the screaming man's chest to prevent any of his comrades from trying to silence him. Wow. I barely saw it, thought Anko, while feeling a bit turned on by the sudden use of violence. Run away and you join this one on the ground only without either of your legs to stand on when I get through with you literally. Stated Barrigan with the Anbu in front of him looking at each other before they surrendered one by one, and Tsunade's Anbu had them restrained. Uchiha Sasuke had no intention of letting this insult slide. Throughout his whole life, Sasuke had been in the shadow of his brother, trying to fight his way to the level Itachi was at, so he could kill the man, and avenge his family. Now this loser, who was supposed to be dead last among the other students at the academy, has this newfound power, and using it against him. Even worse, the people in the village, the councils, and even the Shodaime Hokage himself, had been restrained by the freak in the dead last's body. With the Senju for Hokage backing him, everything seemed to shift in a way that didn't suit the Uchiha in the slightest, and the throbbing painful strikes to his face just enforced the belief that something had to be done about this situation. This shift in his life had to be changed back. The Shodaime needed to come back, the authoritative power of the councils had to come back, and the position of Sasuke himself being the true lead of Konoha had to come back. The only way to do that was to kill the body of Uzumaki Naruto, and thus kill the entity that possessed him, while killing the dead last two in the process. Grabbing the Tanto closest to him, Sasuke moved to stab Naruto's face in the belief that because he had scars there, that it was somehow the weakest part, and that was the place to strike. However, before Sasuke could even have a chance of getting the blade close enough, Hyuga Hinata had flanked him from behind, her being the closest shinobi to possibly do anything, and struck the Uchiha with a gentle fist jab along the neck to induce temporary paralysis. So, the shy girl's got a fire in her after all. Not bad. With the proper sensei, she could be quite the juggernaut herself, and prove all those snooty Hyuga members in her clan wrong, thought Anko, as she had a clear view of Hinata moving around Sasuke when he first grabbed the weapon, and poised to strike with deadly precision when the Uchiha was angling the blade to stab Naruto in the face. For someone who believes they aren't strong enough to be Naruto's wife in the future, you are doing a good job in disproving that belief, remarked Barrigan with a smirk on his Naruto's face, while Hinata herself found herself focusing on what she had done with the reality of the situation catching up to her. I reacted on instinct. I saw what he was planning to do with the weapon and I felt like I just had to move, exclaimed Hinata with Tsunade looking impressed, while the other rookies were shocked she could move like that at all. Good instincts then, remarked Barrigan with Hinata blushing under his praise, while wondering if Naruto would think the same thing. That and I think she wants to prove herself worthy of being Naruto-kun's wife. Maybe scare away any of the competition, or dominate it, so they know who is the head female Dagaki's life, added Anko with Hinata letting out an eep, and blushing heavier. Enough Anko. Hinata, I want you to come to my office later to talk about this, after I finish handling this mess with these Roganbu, and the Uchiha here, said Tsunade, as she left with her Onanbu, who were taking away those that surrendered, and she was personally dragging the Uchiha by his shirt through the ground to the Hokage Tower. Well, that was certainly interesting, remarked Barrigan with a chuckle, before he was gone via Sunito. Monstrous freak of nature, mumbled Kiba before he was suddenly struck in the face by Hinata with a harsh open palm jab. Don't call him that, exclaimed Hinata while everyone was looking at her like she had grown two heads and a foxtail. Since when did the shy girls suddenly not well act so shy? What? He is a monstrous freak of nature. Did you see him? What he did? What he could do to all of us in an instant, if we get out of line. Naruto will be the same way. He'll be a tyrant oppressing us with his power, and won't care about how we feel. Challenged Kiba with Hinata looking livid for the first time in her life, and in a way it was frightening for the girl to feel like this. It was like a fire had suddenly risen in her that screamed to act in Barrigan's and, in the long run of things, Naruto's defense. Hadn't the persecution gone on long enough? It was the same thing over and over again since her childhood growing up while walking around Konoha. People whispering cruel things about Naruto, how they bragged about hurting him the other day, or how they witnessed it like it was their favorite pastime. How they had rewarded their kids for hurting him and told their kids to their friends to do the same. And now, because Naruto was going to have the preverbal fangs and claws to fight back against these abusers, a few of them were speaking out on how it was unfair. The tyrant to those that were tyrannical to him, countered Hinata with Kiba spitting out some blood in his mouth. He deserved every bit of it. If my mother had adopted him into her clan, I would have turned that loser into a stuffed chew toy, exclaimed Kiba with Hinata finding herself moving to slug him, but was stopped by Shino, and Anko herself was between them. Okay. Easy you two. Hinata, go see the Hokage's assistant, and cool off with her, while you're at it. The rest of you can go home with the exception of the mutt here. I'm taking him to see his mother and discuss what he just said here, commanded Anko, as she summoned a snake from her sleeve, and wrapped it around Kiba to prevent him from running away. Don't need to tell me twice, mumbled Shikamaru, but the look Anko gave him seemed to double his speed in leaving with Choji right behind him, and Ino walking away with Shino, per the Aburme's request that they talk further about the situation she had with Naruto. The Aburme clan was filled with masters of logic, and the Aburme era also knew that helping Ino understand things would go a long way in her accepting Naruto as the end result. It would also help Naruto in terms of healing emotional scars from the past, and thus make the boy that would be a potential shinobi comrade less likely to lash out at them with his deathly powers. Can we talk about this? Asked Kiba in nervous tone. Sure. We can talk about this after I bring you to your mother, and explain what you said about Barragan-sama, and by extension Naruto-kun too, answered Anko sweetly in a way that would make all Narumen shudder in fear, since it would remind them of the women in their clan home. All it made Kiba do is struggle further, so he could get away from Anko, and hopefully get to his mother first to tell his side of things in the hopes his mother would take his side over the crazy snake using special jonin. Alas, for the Onizuka heir, his struggles were in vain, and were a total failure. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want a next part of this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification, and also check out the other videos that I have created, and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.